The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Thank you for joining us here in FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow. You know, we're getting close to the November 5th state election, and we're spending some time over the next few weeks speaking to individuals or organizations that are in favor or opposed to the 5 ballot questions that Massachusetts voters will be facing when they go to the polls on November 5th. Today, we're going to focus on question number 1, which will allow the state auditor the authority to audit the state legislature. And I'm pleased to be joined. We're going to be focusing on the yes side of the issue today. And I'm actually pleased to be joined by the auditor herself. Auditor Diana DiZoglio is joining us from her car as she's out and about visiting across the Commonwealth. Auditor, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me back on, everybody. Vote yes on one, bring on the sun. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, you know, I know that when you ran for the auditor's office a couple of years ago, we had the opportunity to speak, I believe, both during the primary and during the general election season. This was one of your planks of your platform. So why is it important in your view, generally, to have the ability to audit the state legislature?
Our state legislature is frequently ranked as the least transparent, least accessible state legislature in the entire nation. Not subject to public records laws, not subject to open meeting laws. Bills are able to be passed in the middle of the night with no recorded roll calls. Our Office of State Auditor has always historically audited the state legislature to the tune of 117 other times that we can find since the creation of the auditor's office back in 1849. In recent years, however, state legislative leaders, namely the Speaker and Senate President, have refused to participate in the same type of audit that every other state entity participates in. We do performance audits of every state entity, the governor's office, our court system, and different entities like the MBTA, the Boston Convention Center Authority. We've done audits of state contracting, procurement procedures across the board, and financials as well. Again, of all state entities, but the only state entity that's refusing to participate in an audit by our office is, unfortunately, our own state legislature. Question 1 would clarify that the state auditor is in fact authorized to audit the state legislature, ensuring increased transparency about how our taxpayer dollars are spent and increased accountability to you, the taxpayer.
Yeah. Now you were a member of the legislature for quite some time prior to becoming the state auditor. What did you see there that I guess piqued your interest in making this happen in your role as state auditor?
Yeah, so I did serve for 6 years as a state rep and 4 years as a state senator. And I can tell you that while I love the legislature and love a lot of my colleagues and love the work that we were able to do, that something that was consistently inadequate was folks' access to what was happening up on Beacon Hill. Our roll calls oftentimes weren't recorded, our votes, I should say, with a recorded roll call vote. Oftentimes, I wouldn't be able to, even as a state senator, get access to the financial documents regarding different issues that I was working to champion. As a senator, for example, I asked for financial information from our leadership team about how much we had in our budget to be able to fund health insurance for our employees during the pandemic. It might not be known that during the pandemic shutdown period, state employees in the legislature had to wait several months before they actually got access to healthcare, while legislators were afforded that healthcare on day one. I was fighting during my time in the legislature to make healthcare accessible to employees on day one, which was very concerning during the pandemic shutdown period, especially. And the pushback was that we didn't have enough money to be able to fund the healthcare. When I asked for those financial documents, I was denied access to that financial information, even as a senator. So that's unacceptable. We need to be able to have access to how our taxpayer dollars are being spent, for senators, for reps, and for all of those whom they serve, who fund the state legislature in the millions and millions of our taxpayer dollars.
In looking at, so how would, let me just ask you, I know you do, a couple hundred, I believe, audits a year, depending on the year of state agencies and other offices. How would this work? So if people, want to understand, okay, what you mentioned it in your open, but if you can just be maybe a little more descriptive, how would an audit, how do they generally work? And would it be any different, I guess, for the state legislature under this proposal?
It would not be different. We have performance audit standards that we're required to follow by law. Certainly, folks are trying to muddy the waters and say that this is something unprecedented or something different or out of the norm. It's actually not any of those things. This is something that was always done and is done of every other state entity. And our office, contrary to what opponents would have you believe, we're not able to just walk into folks' offices and point at things and say, audit this, audit that. It's actually a very stringent process that we're required to follow by the government accountability offices, government auditing standards, which we are legally required to follow for every audit according to our governing statute, Mass General Law, Chapter 11, Section 12, which dictates the type of audit that my office is to conduct. We are to conduct what is called performance audits of every state entity in Massachusetts, at least once every 3 years. And we are just looking to ensure that we are able to follow that standard for our state legislature and conduct the same type of performance audit we conduct of all state entities of our state legislature once again.
Yeah. Is there any precedent of other states? I mean, I guess, how do other states handle this? Do other states give their auditor or some other entity the ability to perform such audits?
Yes, so Massachusetts is unique in that there are no other examples of a legislature refusing to cooperate with the Office of State Auditor. In fact, I spoke with a friend, the Connecticut State Auditor, recently, who said, that it's such a matter of routine that the legislature get audited that they can barely get press around the audits that are conducted because it's such a matter of routine. And it's such a generally accepted, occurrence. So Massachusetts is unfortunately unique in that front. And I will say, look, Massachusetts, we lead on so many different issues. We actually just got recently ranked as #1 state to have a baby in, for example. And we tout all of these different ways that we lead, all these different areas where we've been ranked #1. But we've actually been ranked the exact opposite when it comes to matters of transparency in our legislature. For all of the times that we've got ranked first in the nation or leading the charge in the nation, we actually are ranked dead last in the nation by almost every good government group when it comes to transparency and accountability in our state legislature. We can do better, and this initiative seeks to help us to get to a place in our state legislature where we are more transparent and where we can start leading the nation, hopefully, on this issue.
Those who are opposed, if voters have gotten the voter handbook, if you haven't gotten it already, it is available online. Those on the other side, and I believe there's a professor that has chimed in terms of why people should vote no. He looks at the separation of powers between your office and the legislature, how it could be political in nature. How do you respond to that?
That person, is a friend of legislative leaders and very well connected, and is championing the plight of the Speaker and the Senate President and other leaders who oppose any efforts to increase transparency and accountability through this audit of the legislature. And I find it unfortunate that while he is saying that there's some separation of powers that prevents one branch of government from overseeing another, that he does not include the fact that the legislature audits the executive branch. The legislature has a post-audit and oversight committee that actually has the word audit in its title, that actually is responsible for providing oversight to executive branch agencies and ensuring that there is a check in our system of checks and balances on the executive branch. The system of checks and balances has conveniently been left out of this conversation. This idea that the separation of powers, which is constitutional, prohibits any oversight from one entity over another, That's a really concerning idea when you think about the fact that the judicial system is a separate branch of government. What does that mean if the judicial branch needs to adjudicate a matter regarding potential legislative corruption? Certainly, they would be able to do their jobs, and certainly a separation of powers wouldn't prevent the judiciary from being able to adjudicate a matter of legal importance and significance to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts just because a legislator was involved. So really, these arguments are bogus. And the Office of State Auditor has repeatedly and consistently been clear. We do not seek to exercise the powers of any other department. We only seek to exercise the power of the auditor's office, which is simply to audit and to report on our findings. We actually don't even have enforcement authority in the Office of State Auditor. We're only able to look at documents and receipts and processes and procedures, and then report on those issues and make recommendations on where there could be improvements that are made. We don't have any enforcement authority. The Attorney General could enforce if she so chose to do so, and the courts would be able to adjudicate a matter. But our office is only able to actually shine a light in the dark areas of state government, produce a report, give that report to taxpayers, and inform you of what's going on with your taxpayer-funded departments here in the Commonwealth. So, the only power that we have is the power to ensure that the general public is informed and give you access to information, which, most of which should be subject to public records laws anyways, if our legislature didn't exempt themselves from the public records law. So this is a transparency and accountability measure, and I'm certainly hoping that folks will vote to support this increased access to matters concerning their tax dollars through voting yes on one on the November ballot.
So let me ask you, I know this may be difficult for some of those within the legislature currently, but have you heard that some of them may be supportive of this as we get closer to the election, and they may not be able to say so publicly?
Yeah, a lot actually are, and thanks for recognizing that it is not easy for folks within the legislative body to necessarily say that they are supporting this if they are. Certainly, there are opponents. There's the Speaker, the Senate President. There are their loyalists in the legislature who support the status quo, who are opposing this. But there are legislators who do support this measure. I can actually say, I have some that have come out publicly. Senator Michael Moore has come out publicly. Representative Patrick Kearney has come out publicly in support of this, and some others. But there are a lot who are supporting this behind the scenes, frankly, for fear of retaliation, because what happens in the legislature is when you pick a fight in the eyes of the leadership team, even when it's just you supporting something that you believe in, they view it as you picking a fight with them in the leadership team, and they are known to retaliate against legislators who stand their ground on issues of importance to them, and retaliate against them. And it's not just them that gets retaliated against, it's actually their districts, their communities. If a legislator has funding for a community center or a public safety department or for a senior center van or something like that, that is in the budget process that they're looking for approval on, legislative leaders will oftentimes punish the districts of the legislators who stand up for their values in the face of the leadership team. It's a very top-down style of governance. It is not a democratic system of governance. It's very dictatorial and very authoritarian. And it does not serve the taxpayers of the Commonwealth, the current system in the legislature. So a lot of times legislators will feel held hostage to that knowledge that if they do publicly oppose what the leadership team is saying, their district is very likely to get retaliated against. So I haven't really, to be honest with you, pursued a lot of public endorsements from legislators. I have instead chosen to take this issue to the ballot so that all of you, the taxpayers of Massachusetts, when you have an opportunity to go into that voting booth, which is a secret ballot, and vote your conscience, that you will support this measure to ensure accountability in our state legislature and let legislators know how to think about this.
I know that this will be my final question. If this were to pass, do you expect that the legislature may, take this to another level and take it to court to try to overturn it? Or, I mean, I guess, what are those prospects?
Well, if they did choose to take this issue to court, I would welcome the opportunity. I have been asking to go to court this entire time.
Mhm.
I have been blocked from adjudicating this issue in the court system where matters are supposed to legally be adjudicated and resolved if there is a difference of opinion. I have been blocked from accessing an impartial hearing in our justice system by the Attorney General's office, unfortunately, who signaled that they felt that this matter didn't warrant a court discussion. So, if the legislature did want to pursue resolving this issue in court, I would welcome the opportunity. But I would say that it is no longer a matter between the Office of State Auditor and the legislature. That is what the matter has been up until this point with current law. What legislators would be doing in taking this matter to court after the ballot measure passes is they would be taking the people of the Commonwealth to court over this matter. And they would be trying to overturn a law that the people have voted for. So that is their decision if they want to take the people of the Commonwealth to court once the people of Massachusetts vote for this provision on November 5th.
All right, State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, I appreciate your time asking voters to vote yes on question one. All the best. Thank you for joining me again, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Yes on one, bring on the sun. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. And thank you for joining us here at FRC Media. I'm Keith Tebow, and please make a point to vote on Tuesday, November 5th.